Did it show up?
Oh my gosh. Yes, that is freaky. Okay, we can go back now. Bye.
Yeah, so that's all it's going to do. YouTube is just going to record it. And like I said, this is how we do webinars. So we would send the YouTube link out to people who have registered for the register for the webinar. But those that's
Hmm.
presenting will be in Hangouts because you can do screen share and, display your slides and that sort of thing. And then you just
Right.
go back,
Right.
pull the YouTube video, slice and dice it, edit it, all that sort of business. All right,
Okay.
let's rock.
All right.
We didn't have we need like a intro.
Yeah, but we are really winging it.
uh,
Yeah, we can talk about that. We can talk about that a little later, but I think well, one, my name is Erin Watkins, and I am here with Donnell Burnett, and we are gonna attempt to record our first podcast.
all right, all right. Welcome everybody. We are very excited about this. We think we're going to have some great stuff for you to chew on for the week, and so we're again excited to have you.
All right. So the first thing that we decided that we were thinking about talking about today was education. And we were both struck by the news story of a young gentleman by the name of Michael Brown, who's currently a senior at, I think it's called Mirabeau B. Larman High School. And he's been heavily involved in his debate team, mock trial, student government for years. He's also volunteered for political campaigns. And luckily, this year, he found out that he was accepted to 20 higher institutions for education, which is phenomenal. Go, Michael. But interestingly, with all of the great things that come with that, there was also some backlash associated with his acceptance to those 20 schools. So we just thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about that, talk about the importance of education specifically among Black youth in the community and what that means in the larger context of what's going on in the society today.
Yeah, this story has really sort of captivated a lot of folks. It's here in my area. It's been on the local news as well as the national news. Really, just highlighting how impressive this young man is and the extent that he has reached and grabbed and aspired for his life, which was very, very important. But then the counterpoint was a lot of the backlash that came out of it. And it really sort of fit into this larger narrative of what's going on with the Black community in America and dare I say, across the world in a lot of different ways. And so I thought it was a great topic to kind of take off with and talk about sort of what we see from this perspective.
Absolutely. And I was, looking back at some of the comments that were made by the Fox News host, and I thought it was interesting because, this individual had amazing stats. So this kid had a 4.68 GPA. His SAT score was a 1540. His ACT score was a 34. He got accepted to the Princeton, Yale's, Harvard's, Northwesterns, every school that every parent would aspire for their child to be accepted into. And this woman said that the best thing about this story is that 19 kids come off the wait list.
I know, and
I,
it, yeah, that was an interesting comment. But before I got to her, because I think it's important that we, although we're talking about what's happened with this young man, that we don't give the haters sort of that kind of credence at this point. So I
Good
just want
point.
to, yeah, I just want to kind of highlight this young man. So in addition to all the stuff that you talked about, the academics and I really sort of want to highlight, to get a 34 out of 36 on the ACT, 1540 on the SAT, a 4.68 GPA. I just learned how to count that high, a 4.68, right? So, he is in the 99th percentile of everybody, meaning that he beat out 99% of the people who took those tests in this year. So that is just amazingly impressive. But not only that, this kid is on the debate team. He's on the Key Club. He's got internships. And from what I read, it said that he majored in political science and wants to become a lawyer. So he's focused. He knows what he wants. And again, when I was that age, I couldn't even imagine what I would be doing 2 years from then, let alone to have that kind of vision. So I think it's very important to highlight this young Black man, young Black boy who is killing it and has such a bright future.
I agree. And I thought it was very humble of him to say, for me, it's important to highlight that I'm not the only color is achieving. And he was friends through organizations that I had never heard of. Platform that connects the nation's brightest students from low-income backgrounds with leading institutions for higher education. And then another organization called Emerge Fellowship, where and in the Emerge program, students from underserved communities to attend and graduate from selective colleges and universities across the nation. And then another one called Breakthrough Collaboration, which flavor as well. When I was looking at one of the websites of one of these organizations, I can't remember which one, they were stating that there's about 30,000 teens who have done really well and could potentially qualify to go to some of these schools, but because of the fact of resources and not being able to even think about applying because they probably can't go, they don't even take that leap. So I was, in addition to like learning about Michael, I thought it was awesome that there were so many programs that have enabled him to reach out to different people, learn about the different opportunities and the different schools that are really important for children like him who may not have otherwise had those opportunities. So that's another, kudos to him and kudos to his mom. I mean, did you read about her?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the dream of getting your kids to the next generation, and she getting your kids to the next stage. And she really went to bat for him, pushed him, encouraged him, just everything, and provided the support that he really needed to get him to that next stage. Blazed the path for him.
She did. She really did. And, it's interesting. I think that this story in particular, at least right now in our society, is really uplifting. I was reading an article that came out a little last year in the New York Times. So there's this huge shift in that's happening in education that I'm not sure if people are aware about. So the New York Times did an article where they have shown that Black and Hispanic students are still underrepresented at the nation's top colleges and universities, the same as they were 35 years ago. Mm-hmm. So we have made a lot of progress, but that progress has been primarily in your two-year colleges or universities and more like vocational type schools, if you will. In terms of bridging the gap between the education gap between, children and people of color and other racial groups. So to have this young man be able to accomplish such a feat, given his own internal barriers and given what we've seen systemically across the country, it even adds more credence to what he was able to do in this day and age.
No, absolutely. And, similar to that, I saw one study in, I think it was the Chronicle of Higher Education, and they talked about the number of Black doctors in the last 5 years or so mirrors the number of Black doctors there were in the 70s, and the point of the article was to say that after desegregation and all education reform and affirmative action and all these other sorts of programs that supposedly has brought some equity into the education space and into the labor space, the numbers have not shown that we are any better off than we were in our parents and parents generation. So it's sort of a backhand. I kind of feel like it's a backhanded compliment. We highlight this young man because he has really excelled, and he thought enough to make the point about that he's not the only one. But it's sort of a backhanded compliment in the sense that with all the stuff that all the progress we supposedly have made, you would think that he wouldn't be so special, right? He should be sort of normal. He should be average or maybe a little bit above average. But the reality is that he's a bright star when really we should have a galaxy of Michael Browns. So, so one of the things that I also thought was he's one of the challenges that he's got going on is you saw the excitement. Everybody saw the video of how excited this kid was that he had